I have not met one person who loved Christ as a Christian, but not as a Catholic, who when they heard this didn't end up becoming Catholic. Truth of the matter is this: if I don't want the Eucharist, then I don't want Jesus. If I don't want the Eucharist, Jesus says, you can leave, but I can't change this teaching. Yeah, but honestly, the church down the street has way better music. Yeah, but if you don't want the Eucharist, you don't want Jesus. Yeah, but the church down the street, their preachers know how to preach. My priest is boring. I know he is. But if you don't want the Eucharist, you don't want Jesus. But they have incredible studies, and they have incredible groups, and they have incredible community. Yeah, but if you don't want the Eucharist, you don't want Jesus. Now, is that to say that anyone who's not Catholic doesn't want Jesus? No, actually, that's not the case. I know so many people who are not Catholic, but they are Christians. They follow Christ, and they love him with everything.
For the past few months on Catholic Explained, we've spent a lot of time responding to attacks against the Catholic Church. Catholics worship Mary. The Mass is fake worship. The early church wasn't Catholic. Catholics changed the Bible. Over and over again, the church gets put on trial. But in this episode, we're flipping the conversation around for a second. Because while many people love debating against the Catholic Church, something interesting is happening at the exact same time. More and more Protestants are becoming Catholic. More people are studying church history. More people are questioning modern Christianity. More people are realising the version of Catholicism they were warned about does not actually match what the church teaches. And honestly, that matters. Because defending your faith is not about winning arguments online or humiliating people in comment sections. It's about knowing why you believe what you believe in a culture where Christianity itself is constantly being challenged, watered down, or reinvented. A lot of Catholics grew up knowing the faith was important, but never learned how to explain it clearly when challenged. And the reality is, if you cannot defend your beliefs, eventually someone else will define them for you. So today, instead of only responding to another accusation against the church, we're going to ask a different question. Why are so many Protestants becoming Catholic in 2026? And what does that say about the importance of defending your faith right now?
So many people are converting to Catholicism, or at least Catholic curious. And I've heard all kinds of explanations for why this might be. And as your fellow convert, not gonna lie, these explanations kind of suck. The real reason is simple. People want Jesus. It's the same reason why every one of us chose to become or stay Christian. And when I converted, it's just because that's where I found God the most. And some people don't, and that's okay. We don't need to diagnose and pathologize everything. I've heard others say, oh, it's because people want security. But what actually is security? It's sharing in God's divine life and nature. It's union with God. The saints help us, as do writings of Karl Barth or Charles Spurgeon, Protestant writers. And for those converting, so many people are doing it for the Eucharist, which doesn't mean that they're hungry for bread which fades and turns to dust. They're hungry for the bread of life, Jesus, and a version of Jesus who isn't swayed by politics or feelings, a Jesus who isn't bought out by capitalism or turns a blind eye to genocide. People want a version of Jesus in these times who doesn't change and permeates everything like honey to a honeycomb. And if you're Protestant and you experience that Jesus in your church, good. That's a reason to celebrate. Please don't belittle people for converting to Catholicism or Orthodoxy for their love of Christ. We need to see conversions for what they really are, a conversion of heart towards God.
Recent reports are even showing major increases in Catholic conversions across America, with some dioceses seeing the highest numbers they've had in decades. A lot of people are asking why this is happening. The answer is actually simpler than most people think. Many converts say the same thing over and over again. I never heard this before. They were told Catholics worship Mary, then discovered Catholics worship God alone, and simply asked Mary and the saints to pray for them the same way Christians ask one another for prayer. They were told Catholics ignore the Bible, then found Catholics constantly quoting Scripture when discussing the Eucharist, confession, baptism, salvation, and church authority. They were told Catholic traditions were invented hundreds of years later, then started reading the early church fathers and discovered Christians talking about bishops, apostolic succession, liturgical worship, and the Eucharist extremely early in Christian history.
When I became a Catholic, I realized what a turd I am, I am so not what I think I am when it comes to faith. Just because I had an emotional experience in a conversion and I read the Bible and it speaks to me, doesn't say what I think it says. That's in my mind. I now have the history of the saints. I have all these examples of people who lived holy lives where Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me. And we have examples of people who did that.
Also, good news. I was talking to a Catholic priest. He said he's receiving over 100 new Catholics at Easter. And he said about 40, I can't remember quite the number, are converting from the local big metroplex evangelical mega church. The mega church people are like, hey, the fog machine is old. I want to become Catholic. So we're seeing Protestants convert in big numbers. And there's a lot of Protestants that watch this channel. If you are Protestant, become a Catholic. It's great. Yeah, do we have problems? Have we had 2,000 years of scandal? Yes. Have we had bad popes? Yes. Have we had bad bishops? Yes. Have we had a abuse scandal amongst the priests over the last 40 years? Yes. All of that is bad, but it's great to be Catholic. And you might think, well, I'm not a very good or holy person. Join anyway. You need the grace. You might say, well, I'm divorced and remarried. There's answers to that too. You can go to the bishop. Is this a valid marriage in the Catholic Church, in the eyes of the Catholic Church? Many people have been married in casinos and justice of the peace and on other unusual ways or invalidly in Protestant churches. You could be annulled. You might say, well, my lifestyle doesn't match up with the Catholic Church. We can match up your lifestyle with Jesus Christ and the church. So it's not impossible for anyone to become a Catholic. And when you become a Catholic, you have baptism and confirmation and the Eucharist, confession, so your mortal sins are absolved, last rites, extreme unction. It's rich, it's full, it's beautiful. If you're like, yeah, well, I just like to read my Bible, you can read the Bible too. It's fantastic.
One of the biggest reasons many Protestants begin reconsidering Catholicism is because the attacks against the church often sound stronger online than they do when examined carefully. Take the Eucharist, for example. Many Christians are taught communion is only symbolic. Then they read John 6, where Jesus says, "My flesh is true food, and my blood is true drink." And when many disciples walked away because the teaching was difficult, Jesus did not stop them and say he was speaking symbolically. The early Christians took his words seriously too. Ignatius of Antioch, writing close to the time of the apostles, described heretics as those who deny the Eucharist is truly the flesh of Christ. That does not sound like a medieval Catholic invention. It sounds ancient. Then people begin asking bigger questions. If Jesus founded one church in Matthew 16:18, where is that church historically? If Christianity is supposed to have authority, where did that authority go? If the apostles passed down leadership, where is that succession today? If Christians are supposed to be united, why are there thousands of denominations teaching different things? Many converts eventually discover Catholicism actually has answers to those questions rooted in Scripture, history, and continuity. Church history has become a huge factor in many conversions today because people can finally read the early Christian writings for themselves. Once they do, many are shocked by how Catholic the early church sounds. The early Christians believed in bishops. They believed baptism mattered. They believed in sacramental worship. They believed the Eucharist was sacred. They believed the church had authority to settle doctrinal disputes. In Acts 15, Christians did not simply separate into different denominations when disagreements appeared. The apostles gathered together in council and gave authoritative teaching to the church. That structure still exists in Catholicism today. Another reason many people are becoming Catholic is because they are searching for something deeper. Many converts describe feeling exhausted by modern Christianity, becoming entertainment-driven, personality-driven, or emotionally shallow. Then they walk into a Catholic church and experience silence, reverence, confession, ancient prayers, and the Eucharist. For many people, Christianity suddenly feels connected to history again instead of disconnected from it. This does not mean Catholics believe Protestants are evil or that God cannot work through other Christians. That is not the point. The point is that many people are beginning to realize Catholicism is not the caricature they were taught to reject. The Catholic Church did not appear out of nowhere in the Middle Ages. It traces itself directly back to the apostles. And once people begin studying Christian history honestly, many common attacks against Catholicism start falling apart. Even many former anti-Catholics admit this themselves. Some started trying to disprove Catholicism, and unexpectedly became convinced by the evidence they found. Others were drawn in through scripture study, debates, church history, the beauty of the Mass, or simply a desire for deeper truth. But many conversion stories eventually reached the same conclusion. The Catholic Church preserved something ancient, historical, and deeply connected to the apostles. And honestly, in a culture where everything constantly changes, many people are looking for stability. The Catholic Church has survived persecution, empires, corruption, wars, scandals, and attacks for 2,000 years, yet it still teaches the same core faith, still celebrates the Eucharist, still baptizes, and still proclaims Christ to the world. That continuity matters to people. Eventually, many Christians begin asking themselves a difficult question. If Christianity is only based on personal interpretation, why does everyone interpret it differently? That question alone has pushed many people to study apostolic succession and church authority more seriously. For Catholics, this moment matters, not because apologetics is about humiliating people online or winning arguments, but because many Catholics stay silent when challenged simply because they do not know how to explain the faith clearly in the moment. Most people repeating objections against Catholicism are not acting out of hatred. They are usually repeating what they were taught. That is why Catholic apologetics should focus on clarity, patience, truth, and confidence. Maybe that is part of why so many people are becoming Catholic right now. People are searching for something rooted, historical, biblical, and connected to the early church. And many are discovering the Catholic faith has far stronger foundations than they were ever told. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Catholic Explained. And if you want stronger answers to common objections against the Catholic faith, download our free Catholic Defense Guide linked below. Because you do not need to be a theologian, but you should know what to say when your faith is challenged. Ever been in a conversation about your faith, and suddenly you don't know what to say? You believe. You care. But in that moment, you freeze. You're not alone. Most Catholics were never taught how to clearly explain or defend what they believe. And that's exactly why we created something to help. Our newsletter breaks things down simply. Real questions, real objections, and clear responses you can actually use in everyday conversations. No fluff, no confusion, just truth you can understand and share with confidence. If you're tired of second-guessing yourself, if you want to stop staying silent, this is for you. Click the link in the comments or description to join the Catholic Explained newsletter and start getting equipped today.